day, guys. Welcome back to Coach Connection Mastering Youth Sports. This is our episode 4. We'll be delving a little bit into basketball and soccer. We got a great guest today. One of our really good friends, one of my best friends from like my whole life, pretty much. So it's really cool to bring this along to Coach Kyle. Welcome.
Thank you. Awesome to be here, man. Appreciate you guys big time.
What's up,
And
Kyle?
of course, usual host, Coach Sergio. What's up, Coach? How you feeling?
What's up, E? What's up, Kyle? Great to have you. Our first
Yes,
guest,
sir. Honor.
Yes. The tripod right here, though. Hopefully, we have you more on often too.
Let's do it. Sounds good.
That would be great to have you more on whenever you get you got the opportunity. Now you know that it's pretty simple to make it
Easy.
happen, so whenever you get the time, you could pull it up. All right. Okay. So guys, obviously last week we were talking about speed, so that was really cool. And now today we're gonna just dive into some two sports. Obviously, Coach Sergio trains really high level soccer players. Coach Kyle trains really high-level basketball players. I train a little bit of both, so that's why we wanted to bring that one together. And then obviously we want to let Kyle have the stage real quick for a second, introduce himself a bit, and tell us a little bit about himself and what he's doing. And yeah.
Yes, thank you, guys. I'm honored to be on this podcast. These are two of my great friends, and they've been a big part of me growing as a coach and learning every day and motivating me and being in my corner, and I'm in their corner. And we've been growing together as coaches. So I just appreciate you guys, and thank you for having me on to start. And yes, I've been coaching. This is going to be my 4th year coaching now. I started off at Cora Glades for 2 years, coaching varsity basketball, assistant varsity basketball, and recently just moved to North Broward Prep, where I'm coaching my 2nd year upcoming this year. And I am beyond grateful for both programs. They are two of the best programs in Broward with two of the best coaches in Broward. And I have learned so much so fast, which was like, it feels like a hack, almost like a cheat code, being able to learn from a young coach and Coach Ham and an awesome legendary coach in Coach Casey, and just building my brand and my coaching style off of theirs, and how much I've learned from them has changed the game for me. So now I can include my training experience into my new coaching experience and keep growing from here. So very excited. I've been doing traveling basketball for 4 years now, and I've been doing 8th grade for 3 years. I started 4th grade this year. So a new little dynamic that I've been working on, which just helps me a lot, because I get to be around the young players and see what they need to train on and work on in game, off game. And I'm really comfortable with the 8th grade, which is a good developmental year, because a lot of these kids are going to high school, and we're trying to get a lot of these kids ready. So this is one of their biggest years/summers of their athletic career in 8th grade. So I've been really enjoying that age of groups and loving high school basketball. So I've just been rolling with it and enjoying the South Florida athletics down here.
That's awesome, Coach.
Well, I'd love to hear what you said about the learning from other coaches, because of course there's courses and there's licenses, different stuff to get. But for me, that on the job training, man, that whatever you want to call it, that culture, that wisdom that you get from really coaches that have done it, that are doing it at a high level. For me, that's priceless, and I always try to take a little piece of from everybody that, that makes you special, and then of course, eventually you develop your own, but those influences, man, are huge. So I'd love to hear
Absolutely.
that.
They both Coach Stephon Ham from Cora Glades High School and Coach Casey Wallop from North Broward Prep. They are beyond successful. I've coached in a regional game every year I've coached so far because of them. We've been at regionals. We reached regionals twice at Cora Glades. We reached regionals last year with North Broward Prep in my first year. And just the stuff that I take away from them is everything. Their demeanor, the way that they talk to the kids, the way they motivate kids, their strategies, their off-season stuff, their off-day stuff, and there's just a lot of factors that bring them over the top when you compare them to other coaches, and just their passion. They're two of the most passionate coaches that I've ever met with basketball, let alone Broward County. And I feel like passion is one of the biggest traits that goes along with success. So if you can't be passionate about what you're doing, big or small, it's going to be hard to be successful athlete or coach. And just being around two of the most passion and experienced coaches has just been a blessing and just something that I cannot take for granted ever. And moving forward, I'll remember these years forever, how they've helped me and what they taught me and continue to teach me. I still talk to Coach Ham and go to his games and watch him and learn from him still. and I'm at North Broward Prep learning from Coach Casey every single day. So just being able to take the best of both worlds and form them into my own coaching and grow as my own coach is just, I'm forever thankful to them. And as in Coach Eric has been helping me train and learn the training side of things ever since I started training. So I've been training for about 6 or 7 years when I jumped on and helped Coach start his business, and he taught me about how to set up trainings when I was first starting. And he remembers, I remember my first training, I was like, Coach, can you come with me? I'm too nervous. He's like, Coach, you got this, you got this. And just the confidence and the qualities he's given me is a whole different side of it, which has helped me succeed a lot lately. And I'm forever grateful to Coach Eric and just being the guidance on the training side for me, mentally and physically. Not only does he help me shape my workouts out, he could tell me how he works with me and helps me, how I'm talking to the kids, how I'm communicating with parents, and all this stuff is big time for our business and our coaching careers moving forward.
Yeah, I think for anybody listening out there, like if you're thinking about becoming a coach, then you can hear from Coach Kyle that trying to get into some places where you're around some really talented
Right.
people, and you're down to learn for a couple years and be a little bit on the underside, but like really get that experience and really get to learn how to do stuff from people who've done it for longer is probably going to be always like the smarter way to grow, and you'll get better. And like Coach Sergio was saying, you're gonna pull from all these people that you learn from, but then it'll create a little bit of your style too. So it's like, again, it all comes together because nothing's original. So I think sometimes people are too caught up in like, oh, I got to do it my way, or it's like, hey, everything's already invented. Don't overthink it. Go out there and get some mentorship, or some people are gonna pay for it, or you're gonna internship for it. Some people get jobs for it. Either way, like however you're trying to do it, we highly recommend it. We think it's definitely the smart way to learn. And same thing, like I always tell you guys, just copy a lot of really good coaches and then see what works, and then over time you start understanding like what to do and when to do it, and obviously two things you touch base with that are important: how to talk to kids, how to talk to parents as coaches. I think it's probably one of the hardest things to learn, and that one only gets better from you like actually having clients and having kids to
Going
coach
through the process.
talk
Yeah.
to. That one you can't,
Wow.
that one you can't like make up. So with that, thank you, Coach, for that. So now we're gonna want to go into what I think, again, and to me, I'm linking this together a little bit, but I really think that soccer and basketball have a lot of things in common. Obviously, they're different sports, but I think sometimes we really like are we're thinking it's such two different complete worlds, but there's a lot of things. And obviously, if you guys like Boston's the head coach for Boston, Coach, what's his name?
Coach Missoula?
Coach Missoula, like Coach Missoula, and he's touched a lot based on him linking up with the coach from Manchester City.
Yeah, with Pep. Yeah,
with Pepe, and them talking about the differences and the similarities with soccer and basketball. And so we want to actually here just touch on what we think is kind of similar, some things that we see, and for people to just link the sport a little bit. Maybe basketball guy, go watch some soccer. If you're a soccer guy, go watch some basketball. Like I think you'll be really like the sport a lot.
well, I would like to talk about a little bit first from like our standpoint of as coaches, because I think as coaches for sure there's a lot of crossover between, like we were talking earlier about addressing players, addressing parents. I think Kyle, and one of the things I've learned from Coach E as well, and shout out to Coach E, shout out to any coach that will take on a mentor relationship. I've had some great mentors, and I've had some not so great mentors. I've had some guys that maybe they were great coaches, but they didn't treat you with the same level of respect, but then there's guys that really did and really were generous with their knowledge. And I am forever grateful, just like you, Kyle. But I think the number one thing is connection, right? I think once you understand our job is connecting with the players, then that you realize the communication, all that stuff, that is the job, and it's the training, like Coach E said, you're not going to reinvent the wheel. Every exercise you can imagine. Doesn't mean you can't throw in your touch, but I love how Coach E put it. What to do and when to do it, that's our job. Connecting with the players, keep them motivated, keep them working on the right schedule, that's our job. So I think, and I think that's why it's beautiful to see our journeys, because there's a lot of parallels. I've seen it with Coach E, with his sessions, with me. Like, we're all coaches in our lanes trying to to make it, our way, trying to get in the best knowledge and filter it to our players. So, I think first and foremost, there's a lot of crossover between what we're trying to accomplish with our players, no matter the sport,
Yeah, everybody out there, y'all got to get faster.
Yeah.
Y'all got to be wizards of your skill. You got to be strong. You got to be athletic, and then you all know you got to know how to play too. Each one of those layers has so much branches. But if we wanted to keep it to like a quick 30-second to a minute explanation, right? You got to be athletic, meaning fast, strong, quick, all the stuff that makes you a good athlete. And then you got to be really good at your skill, meaning whatever, like if it's dribbling, whether it's soccer or basketball, right? Both dribble. You got to be really have it on a string both ways. And so we're just naming one skill, right? Obviously, and then going into your IQ, right? Do you actually know how
Yeah,
to
I
play
was
the
gonna
sport?
say understanding. Yeah,
We can encompass that, and that's why I say like all those have their own branches, right? Like skill has its own branch, and IQ has its own branches. And but if you had three ways to simplify for people out there that want to know, like, okay, what should I do? Then those are the three. But then that's where you get in a really good coach that can help you break down those three, give you drills, give you
Yeah.
film, exercises from whichever side you're gonna do it. I think those will be things that again we're saying every sport. Like this is not even it goes baseball, lacrosse, swimming. Pretty much every sport you need you need to be good at your skill. You need to be an athlete, and you need to know how to you don't know how to play your whatever you're playing. You gotta have some wits within it.
I will say it's not a recipe, right? Or it is a recipe. It's not a menu. Like, you got to have all three.
Right.
I'm sure in basketball you see it. There's some ballers, some skillful players, but they don't know how to apply it. They get lost in
Right.
the team. They don't share enough. They don't give it when they should. To get it back.
100%.
So I think that definitely applies. And if you want to touch on that, Kyle, maybe in basketball it's even more obvious. There's some freak athletes, but
Right. You,
maybe they're not.
you could find someone's skill point in basketball. You could find it pretty quick in a couple minutes or two. You could see where somebody falls within their skills. And the main thing with skills, I would say skills give you freedom. In most sports, especially basketball, skills give you the freedom to learn the game. So a lot of these good teams, especially high school kids, like when you're coming to high school, I think you really need to be able to master your skills in the early years, as in early as fifth, all through middle school, and work on your skills as much as you can so you can be able to learn real basketball and going into high school. And then when you come to these high school programs that I've been working with, it's hard to catch you up on skill when we have so many skillful kids. And we're leaning more into teaching basketball and teaching the intriguing part of basketball that we run. We have so many different little sets and actions and spots that kids need to be in. And both of my schools have run their programs like college. So if you come in needing to work on your skills a little more, you're just going to be behind the eight ball a little bit, as in the team stuff. So having these skills at an early age, just around like middle school, I would say, gives you a freedom and the most chance to be successful in high school, because you don't have to spend time on those skills. And like some sports are very different with how you could work on your skills in individual and group setting. And the individual settings, speak on basketball in specifically, you can work on a lot of stuff in basketball. But then with the group settings is you could use it and try it out and get comfortable with it. So I think both are very, very important during the summers, especially. Not only are you enhancing your skill, but you're trying to get comfortable with it in live play. So when you're ready to go to a tryout or a school practice, you're beyond comfortable and you could just read and react, because not only have you gotten your skill up, but you've gone through the motions where you've worked on different counters and different reads and stuff like that.
Repetitions and iterations, right,
Right.
Coach E?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are definitely it. And also, now that you're touching at the middle school level, Coach, I think we've never spoke about, but when do you guys think kids should start like training for like athleticism and their skill? Like, what is a good age for them to start?
Well, I love, Coach, I love that you're working with that age group, because I am too. I have the U14, U15 coming up. And yeah, man, we're already there by then. They're already kind of skillful, honestly. And we are starting to again, teach the game at a higher level, how to think about tactics, and going into what Coach E said, ramping up even more the strength and conditioning. So at that standpoint, it's like you really start to see a separation. And yeah, a lot of bridging that gap from the athletic, skillful players to now understanding, like, man, it's a hard gap to bridge, especially with the best players because they've gotten away with doing things a certain way. And what happens when you get on a field or a court and everyone's athletic and everyone's fast? The guys that make the best decisions, that can apply their skills, those become the best guys. So I love that you're working with these age groups. Again, that crossover, it's the same thing with me. It's like trying to keep their skills sharp, of course, but they should already have those certain things. And Coach E, I'm sure you want to touch on this, but there has to be an athletic base already when you're 14. And when you start to build that, Coach E, you're the
Yeah.
expert on
So
this part.
we were talking about that before, right? I'm not gonna say any names or any examples, but let's say, right? You're first of all, I think 9 to 10 year olds. That's when you should maybe think about training your kid. I think it's gonna be based on your kid. Is your kid really down to listen to somebody for an hour, work out the whole time, like work, like is it gonna be more babysitting or is it gonna be more working? Because like I think that's where parents sometimes get mixed up. They want a 10-year-old to have like a 14-year-old or 18-year-old mindset. So it's like you got to be realistic about what you're doing. So it's kind of based on your kid. You kind of got to know your kid. Obviously, if your kid really likes the sport, way more likely for him to be ready to do stuff at 10, I would say. I think before 10 though, like I don't think 9, 10. I think that before that, I think you got to just be playing with your kid and like trying to teach him whatever you teach him as a
Mm-hmm.
parent. Maybe put him in recreational leagues where he has a little bit of coaching and can play, because we were talking about how like
A
being
little
skillful
pushback.
is great too, but you got to play too. Like you learn a lot from playing, and then in the regs, it's no pressure, and that's how parents should take it too. Like, yeah, you should want to get better, but it's also like introducing your kid to like the
Yeah.
rules and how everything works, and like I think that's super important. And then yeah, back to the other subject, coach, that you were saying, so, like at 10, depending on like the level of your kid, you obviously want to keep working on both, right? But if you're like maybe your kid at 10 is kind of decent at the skill, but he's not a great athlete yet, then you probably want to double down on getting him more athletic, because like what coach was saying was that when you get to that 13, 14 age that we're talking about right before high school, which is also like right in the cusp of puberty, you already want to be a decent athlete. Even if you're not the best athlete, like compared to the best athletes that you're going up against, you want to kind of have a little bit of a foundation. You want to be, decently strong, decently fast. You don't have to be the best one, but it's going to definitely help you bridge that
Yep.
gap. And also think going into high school, like if you're good and you're 14, like you might play against some 17, 18
Yeah,
year
that's what
olds.
I was say.
So like physically, like if your body's kind of not ready, like you're gonna struggle, and you could be really skillful too, by the way. Like so that'll allow you to play. But then when it's people are bumping, and you have to be able to absorb contact and like almost like get punched in the mouth sometimes and not get mad about it and be able to like keep your composure and all that. Like if you're strong, that's a lot easier
Good.
than if you're not, because then like it's going to be very discouraging, demoralizing, which is great for some kids, right? Some kids, I think like we can all learn from that, being cut or like maybe not being game punked in some games, but like this kid just overpowers you and just like kicks your butt, and then it makes you think like, man, again, I got to work on this because like this can't keep happening, or like I don't want that to happen to me. So I think those experiences are important, but I think parents should understand that you could prepare your kid for some of this stuff, especially with the knowledge that's out right now, especially knowing that weight training is not going to stunt your kid's growth if you do it right, and you know what you're doing, and you're working with some like decent professionals, like decent coaches that know some stuff, like your kid could be, I mean, I've seen it with my kids, like 9-year-old, like you can make some really athletic kids by
Right.
13. Are they going to be best athletes across the board? Probably not, but I would say if you're in the 20%, you're on good path, because this is before like, or right in that break, like we were saying, of puberty. So what do you guys think? So we were talking
It's gonna
about
build
that,
up
right?
before.
The whole why it's important to be athletic, and then now let's talk coach again. And Coach Kyle, if you want to answer, when do you think kids should be training? And same thing, Serge. Like, when do you guys think they should start? Because we didn't get that answered. Just so parents, on both sports can, or athletes too, can hear like what they should be doing, or what age.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, coach.
Well, my only thing would be, okay, so I think we agree that there has to be an athletic base and there has to be a skills base by the time you're 13 or 14.
Cool.
Now, when you start building those skills, I mean, I'm not against, of course, everybody's different, but I'm not against starting to teach things early, as long as you relieve the pressure. You know, you don't make it a job and you keep it fun. You keep feeding the curiosity. You keep feeding, like we talked about, the passion. You know, most important thing is that these athletes are passionate, that they love the sport. They fall in love with the sport. They'll deal with all the hard stuff that's coming. You know, because it is competitive out there, and there, you know, it's sharks out there, and if you want a spot on a Division I team, you're gonna have to take it from someone. If you want a spot on a pro team, you're gonna have to be a grown man or woman and take it from someone, and you have to be ready for that. So if that is the ultimate goal, I think you have to think long term. And I tell parents all the time, think long term. Okay, you want him to be peaking when he's 16, 17, 18. You don't need him to be peaking when he's 11, 12. Most important thing, he loves the game, because that will make him fall in love with the process, the training, the skill development. Once he gets that skill development, he starts to gain confidence. You start to incorporate the strength and conditioning, get him a little bit stronger. And then when he's making that jump that we're talking about, that 14, 15, you're giving him enough tools that the rest is on him. It's on his mentality. Is he going to go be a dog, and compete for a spot? But I think a lot of players are coming or getting to that point, like with incomplete toolkit, They don't have enough in the bag. Yeah, they're super athletic, but they're just behind with some of the skills, or they have all the skills, but they're just weak, or too weak, or too slow. They can't keep up with the pace. So again, I think our job as coaches is to try to get them there. I think you can start teaching skills very young, but just how you go about it, is very important. Always remember, like, it shouldn't be a job for a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old, like, because they don't see it that way. They want to have fun.
Right. That's their favorite thing to do.
Fun is the game, for sure. Coach, so what do you think age-wise?
Especially since with my new team, 4th grade, I think 4th and 5th grade, you kind of keep it light and, like, introduce them. So what I've been doing with my team is I've kind of been finishing with a new little approach. We've been finishing with little, like, shorter sprints. We do planks. We do some push-ups. I've been working on squats a little bit with them, introducing them to them. And then I feel like 4th and 5th, that's a good plan. But by maybe like 6th a little bit, 7th, almost definitely. And 8th, it's almost a non-negotiable. And there's also different levels to this. So there's some kids that are very, very elite travel basketball kids in 6th and 7th grade, and these are more of the kids that I'm talking about that need to be lifting weights by 6th, 7th grade. And maybe light, maybe very, very, in very healthy way. You got to do your research on your trainers, you know what I mean, and learn about the style that they train, because you want it to be very light on the body, very beneficial to the body, especially your sport related. So I think by 7th, 8th grade, a lot of these high-level elite basketball kids are getting ready to try to compete against the 17, 18-year-olds like you touched on. So some of these travel kids are going to try to make varsity as a freshman. So you're walking in 14, maybe sophomore, you're 15, and a lot of with the reclasses now you're playing 17, 18-year-olds. And a lot of them, their skills are the same. So what's the only difference between an 18-year-old reclass and a 14-year-old freshman? It's their body. It's their speed, their strength, their mobility, their ability to get low the whole game, being able to play defense, you know what I mean, twitchy. So I think if some of these 7th, 8th, 9th graders can get a little jump start in 6th, 7th, and really put a little gasoline behind it on 8th, I think that they could really prepare themselves to be even more successful in high school, which leads to more success in trying to get to college.
I think we could put that together right there too, because look, Coach Sergio talked about, like, you want your kid peaking at 16, 17, 18, right? So same concept in the basketball world. Like, you want to be really strong by then. But if you're gonna compete early, then you have to already have some of those, like Coach was saying, like Coach Sergio was saying, you gotta have some tools in that bag already. Like, you gotta be kind of strong, you gotta be kind of quick. And I would say the strength is the number one thing at that level, because there's a lot of players who are, like, obviously, like, in high school, we're still not seeing the 1% of the 1% yet. That's more like in college, right? But at the same time, if you're a little bit stronger, like, that will help you out so much. And especially as a younger player, I think that's more for the younger players, because older players can have they can be a little more witty because they understand the game. They've been playing longer. And obviously, they might already just have their strength because they've gone through puberty. But if you have fully gone through puberty, so if you're pre-puberty and you're going up against post-puberty, then the only thing that could probably save you is being a little stronger.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You see that a lot in these age groups for sure. Some kids are just going through puberty, and some eighth graders are huge. God, I'm sure you've seen them, and they're ready. They're ready to start training like young men. But I love what you said about the body weight stuff to start, man. I think the foundation there, get the proper technique, but like push up, planks, pull ups, all that stuff. Like you don't need a lot of equipment, and start to build the strength training as part of the process, not separate it from the sport. I know in soccer there's always been a big stigma. The guys that just know the game and things were done a certain way for a long time. But of course, like everything, it evolves. All these professional teams now have
Yeah.
strength and conditioning programs, but it hasn't necessarily come down to the youth level yet. There's very few guys that incorporate it. And this is one where, again, shout out to Coach E, because he really put me on to good programs, make me understand really the importance of being strong and fast and how that applies to the sport, and how you can run the session and do touch on all things. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. And I think a lot of times in soccer, especially, it's very judgy. If a guy is doing too much of the gym stuff or the strength and conditioning, that means he doesn't know about the game. Where if you're thinking modern to 2025, professional clubs, top colleges, they're incorporating everything. They're gathering data, and they want their players as athletic as possible. It's no secret.
Yeah, being stronger definitely probably helps reduce injury risk. Remember, it doesn't prevent.
Of
There's no
course.
such thing as injury prevention. But let's just keep it as simple as possible. Contact, right? I have a little bit of I don't have a bird chest. I got a little bit of, I've been doing my push-ups. I've been doing my dumbbell presses with Coach E. I got a little chest, and I get bumped real hard on my chest. If I don't have that, that's gonna hurt a lot, and it's gonna leave a mark for a few days. If I'm a little strong, if I got a little bit of armor, I could take that and keep playing. I could continue to do this. So this is where we're talking about, like, for the parents and the athletes listening, you don't have to necessarily be like ridiculously strong, but getting stronger will help you. How strong? Your coach is gonna, like, that's where getting coaches helps you. Like, are you strong enough yet? Maybe. Are you good enough at your skill yet? Maybe. And depending on what your coaching thinks you're at, then you can decide, where should I be spending more of my
Mm-hmm.
time. So with that being said, we can go now into like some recommendations. We spoke off-season training a couple sessions ago. So now I want to give the stage to both coaches so that they can kind of give you guys, like, for all soccer players and all basketball players right now in off-season. Because it's funny, both of these sports are at the same time in America. Like, the seasons run, at least in high school, they're at the same time. And I think because it's fall
Right.
sports, I think it's even the travel leagues are pretty close by. So for you guys right now that just finished season and you're about to be doing stuff in your off season, Coach Kyle, Coach Sergio, gonna give you guys a little brief breakdown of what if you were training with them, would be getting, right? And what they think, you guys should be implementing in some of your off-season programs. So again, you could be a little bit ahead of the curve and maybe a little bit more prepared. And then if you're at that 13, 14 age gap, then this is definitely for you to listen to, on parents with kids in that gap. I think this one will be very, very beneficial for you guys. So who wants to start?
Coach, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll go first. I guess, like we were just talking about, since a lot of programs don't incorporate strength and conditioning, you should do it in the summer. Okay, you should be, because you could really ramp up your body. You can get yourself healthy, get yourself fit, and go in already stronger and faster. Just with, it doesn't have to, you don't have to kill yourself, but just, 3-4 times a week, get with the coach like us that will put you on the right program, and just, work for a couple months on things like sprinting, jumping, agility work, different stuff that we do for soccer. Just, again, this should be worked on throughout the season, but the realistic view of things from a time standpoint, from just like we talked about, the knowledge of these coaches, it's not focused enough. So I think we could definitely incorporate that. If you're not, it's a great time to do it. You have extra time to rest during
Right.
the day. In addition to this stuff, jump in the pool after, whatever. But in addition to the strength and conditioning athletic part, I would definitely work on things that you're not comfortable or good at. Like me and Eric have talked about this before, but with soccer, your weak foot, your opposite foot is huge, and people don't realize how much you can improve a little aspect of your game like that and what effect that will have on the rest of your game. In soccer, it's huge because it opens up the whole left side of the field. A lot of times, players will look and they'll choose to go back the other way, and it's just the wrong decision. You get to a certain level, you do that 2, 3 times, that's a red flag. It's like, okay, this guy can't
Right,
play to
right.
his left. Again, the crossover with basketball, Kyle. I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like in these elite level sports that we've been coaching at, anything that's weak is going to get exploited, and good coaches will do it. Good players will do it, and these summers, especially with these summers, this time off is just a way to not only work on your weaknesses but also double down on your strengths. With also having the off season, you're not playing every other day. And like Coach Serge spoke on, is yes, when we have our practices, we don't have a lot of time during the season. We are running through plays. We are running through personnel against teams we're playing against. We don't really have time to get our guys faster every day. And then we have games every other day. Guys need to recover. And then also you want to stay sharp for the games. So maybe you don't work on like your pick and roll game when you're not a pick and roll player. Or maybe you're a shooter and you're just kind of making sure your shot's sharp during the season. Now in the off season, it gets a little different. This is when you could double down and add things, especially basketball wise. Say I have a guy that's mainly a shooter. Yeah, I would double down and really dive into different finishing, one dribble mid-range pull-ups, and try to grow his game because we have the time to get comfortable with it. We don't need to work on it in a day or two. We could really spend a half a summer on adding a couple different things. And then big time with the strength and conditioning during the off season, your body has more time to recover. You don't have school. You don't have You don't have 3 games every week. You're not traveling for games. You're not getting home late, waking up early for school. So you really have no excuse, and you have time. So unless you're wasting that time, you could definitely get stronger. You could definitely add stuff to your game, and you could definitely be able to recover quick enough to go again the next day or two. And which I've learned from Coach Sergio, that if you're in there 3 to 4 times a week, you're going to be good to go. 3 to 4 times a week minimum, you'll be ready to go as an athlete.
I think both of you guys touched on a lot of really good jumps right there. Again, guys, work on stuff that you're not good at. Everybody knows what they're not good at. They just hate working on it because you struggle and you don't do it right. But it's like that's the whole point. That's why it's exploited in the game. So you have to work on that. And then again, touching base on players got to understand, especially at this age and this level, like you guys got to be taking advantage of the fact that you are not playing 3 years.
Right, absolutely.
Right. And you're not, and you don't have school. So what does that mean? That means that you have more time, and you should be trying to do something because, like, you want to keep your body a little used to the little bit of the grind. And then as far as how long workouts should be, I think I recommend, like, if you're working on your own stuff by yourself, 30 to 45 minutes is good. And same thing with the weight room. I think that's another thing that players get mixed up. They think they got to be in there for 2 hours to get a good workout. Like, you're not gonna go to the gym 8 hours for the week. Like, you barely like to go as a young player, so help yourself out. Go for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Go fool around. Go, even if you don't know what to do, go do the exercises you like to do. But do them for the whole summer, 3 times a week. Like, that's kind of the difference maker. And then, yeah, if you can get a good trainer and, like, to get you a program, that's still even something I struggle with some of my high-level players. Like, I think some of them should know what to do if we've been working for more than a year. Like, you should have an idea of, like, how to do a nice little workout session in 30 to 45 minutes because we kind of do the same thing pretty often, which is why we go back to telling players and parents that this is a long-term thing. Because, like, you're adding these little layers over the years, and as we get better at one thing, then okay, well, we're pretty good at that, let's touch on something else. We're pretty good at that, let's touch on something else. So you're not trying to, like, you're getting little things better, but you're doing it over time because it'd be impossible for you to do everything every day. And yeah, let's say somebody is is gonna go to the gym and use their whole 2 hours. I think that's probably a Division I or pro athlete that can actually go and work like that. But a younger player, mindset wise, I don't even think they could focus that long. And because we know, guys, when we run one-on-ones, even with older players, like, some of them can't lock in for the whole hour. So this is again back to what I was talking about earlier. Some of the parents with the younger kids getting a little pressed when kids aren't as focused yet as they should be. But it's like, hey, your kid will be like that, but you got to give him some time. And obviously, still going to be, like, depending on his personality and who he is, how focused and how all that's going to come together.
Absolutely.
So I think for us as coaches too, we can't get too comfortable either, like working on stuff we're good at. you know. And I try to think about that because sometimes I'm like, man, I know I could put them to do a drill, but I think, again, what Eric said, the right thing at the right time. It's like, yeah, I can make him do this drill and it's going to look nice and he's going to be comfortable. Or should I push it, do the next variation that's even a little harder, even on the other side? Let's see how it looks. You know, constantly challenging player as well. So I think a lot of times in our job, you know, on all aspects, like we have to confront our players. You know, it's kind of our job. And sometimes we don't want to have the confrontation, or we don't want to take the time or the effort to teach him something that's hard when that's what he needs.
Absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think one that everybody can take off both sports regardless right now, right? Is you got to work on your weak hand, right? So if you're a basketball player, you're working on your offhand. Like if you're righty, you're working on your lefty, and if you're a soccer player, if you're righty, you're working on your left foot. Like I think this is one that across the board. And again, you don't need a trainer to do
Right.
this. You can definitely, again, it's more about the focus and time. Are you really willing to invest, 20 to 30 minutes 3 times of the week to work on your offhand or off foot? The good players will, and the not so good players probably
Right.
won't. So it's something that you guys can take off. Like if this is too long and you're like, oh man, that's so much, I don't know what to do. Work on your off foot, work on your offhand. That will help you out so much. A whole summer of it, though. Again, remember what we're saying, like, a couple times in the whole summer is not going to make you wonder why you come back and you're like, hey, I practiced, but I didn't get any better. I mean, did you really spend like a couple like months on it, or did you spend a couple
Right.
days on it? Both of those are going to give us like a completely different outcome. So players listening out there, like you can't say it doesn't work if you didn't really put enough effort to actually see if it would work.
Consistency,
Right.
discipline. That's what we
Right.
always talk
It's
about.
all consistency, discipline. It's for all sports. It's the hardest thing, right? Like nobody likes to do you see players, you see like all these cool drills from like the Instagram trainers and everybody. And this includes us too, see all the cool drills, but then you go and see like what the pros are doing and they're working on like the basic and trying to do it like
Right.
perfect. Players out there are listening to what we're saying because like we can't explain it any better. Like work on your fundamentals, get really good at the basic stuff, like really, 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 really good. Like each dribble with your foot or with your hand, like it should be really, really good with both
Right.
hands. So it's like instead of you trying to put like 5,000 combos, like is your like one dribble you're working on, is that one really, really like elite? Because that's what the pros do. And even then they have weaknesses. Understand that this is part of your growth as players, and parents understand that you got to help your kids out too. And what you could do with that is just remind them, like don't be annoying about it. Nobody likes annoying parents. And we're talking from us being athletes ourselves. Like, don't be the annoying parent, but try to what works really good? You want your kid to get better? Like, go and do it with him
That's
a
big.
little bit. Even if you're not good, like even if like maybe your kid loves basketball and you weren't a basketball guy, but like you understand that like, oh man, like if he got his other hand better, it'd be better, right? But then you go to the park with him and you help him out a
Right.
little bit, and you'd be like, hey, what if you did this a little bit? If the sport you played is what you got your kid in, then there should
Better.
be no
Right.
excuse for you to at least go over there and like, hey, look, when I was younger, like we would work on this and we would work on this. And I remember like when I was your age, I wasn't that good
Mm.
at this. And I think this could help you. Maybe instead of saying like a parent taught me this last week, like instead of saying like if it like you got to be able to do this or you won't be at that level, is like, hey, if you learn to do this, that will give you an opportunity to play at
Right.
that level. So like figuring out how to speak from parents and coaches like to the kids, I think it's super important, and it's something that like again we're trying to teach people here with this podcast is stuff aside from the drills and the X's and O's that people don't understand. That's so like what makes good coaches, right? Or what gets people to stick around and train with you for years. It's not just what you know how to do and what you can teach. It's also how you teach it, and then how you go about like communicating with
Yeah.
the players. Because like we ran, I think in the first podcast, Coach, right? We were talking about like we're more player coaches, right? But I really feel, and I think probably Coach Kyle is on the same boat, right? I'm gonna run through somebody. I'm gonna run through a wall for somebody that I like compared to somebody that I don't like. Some coaches are not gonna agree with that, and that's totally fine. So how do you correct mistakes and all that? I think that's something really cool for coaches trying to be better coaches, and for parents, because you could be your kid's biggest critic, and like you don't you out like you have to have like a balance to that, because like you don't want to be too
Yep.
critical. There's enough criticism, especially if your kid plays
Yeah.
at a high level. Anything you guys want to touch base on that?
That balance. Because there's some days where I'm going to come down hard on them. And that's when you need to put your arm around them and say, listen, it's okay, son, I got your back. And then there's days where it's the opposite. Maybe you're coming down hard on them for something in school or something's going on I need to know, because then I'll put my arm around him. You know, again, it's a fine line. Like, I don't necessarily want to be friends with my players, but I do want them to know I have their back and to give them confidence, not take away confidence. It's always in the front of my mind. At the same time, these are 14-year-old boys, you know, so you can't come in too soft, because they will walk all over you, or they will at least test you. And again, how you respond to that, I think definitely it should be a positive relationship, and it grows into respect once you show them that, hey, you are getting better. You know, these, you have to trust. And it goes back to connection. That one of the things we've been talking about this whole time. If there's not that connection, then it's very hard for us to do our job. You know, when a player doesn't take in the message, when he doesn't trust, and again, some of the best players are the hardest to reach, and that's the challenge. But just like Coach E was saying, I believe reaching and connecting, getting our message through, that's common across all three of us, you know, and that's our main job. And I think as long as, you know, we keep that message clear, that frequency clear between the parents, between the players, then we're always going to be, you know, we're going to be that important link, you know, between them and the sport, or between them and working out. And, you know, how many athletes, you probably see it too, Kyle, like how many athletes do we coach that they're 13, 14, but they're already way better athletes?
Yeah, big time.
Like, I'm fighting that. I know. As a coach, I try to get in there and mix it up once in a while. They got to remind these kids, you know. But you know, hopefully I can keep doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, yes, I agree. And especially with like being the player coaches, like I think three of us kind of fall into, I think it helps just having the player be so honest with you. Like, I've never had a player shy away from telling me anything because of the way I've connected with him. Now doubling down on what Sergio said, it's definitely very important to have a balance. In my beginning years, I felt like I was a little too much player coach, and now I'm adjusting a little bit, adding a little bit more discipline, and I found it to be a really good ratio. Even though if I'm more 75%, 25, but just having that little ratio just balances the world, balances communication. And yeah, it's not always joking and laughing and fun. Half of it's super serious, and we need to instruct you and what you're doing wrong and what you could do better, and we need to be serious in that moment. And just being able to grow with the kids, especially at a 13 to 14-year-old mentality, where they have a lot of stuff going on with their friends, a lot of stuff going on with their school, trying to figure themselves out a lot. I think it's just big time to have a coach that you could talk to, you can communicate to, that knows you, and that you could just grow with on and off the court at that early age.
Absolutely. And parents also understand too, the relationship is going to be different based on the age. You know, we were just talking about 13 to 14-year-olds, so that's probably going to be a little different than like how we as coaches treat, like, for example, the 4th and 5th graders, right? So just, you know, so just so parents understand that, like, that ratio is important. Coaches too, ratio is important, but you know, you got to know, like I always say, you got to know your personnel. Like, who are you talking to? Because you're not gonna be able to talk to a 9-year-old how you talk to a 14-year-old.
Yes,
and you gotta just have that you know, I know common sense ain't common, but
I think it's important to remember how insecure, like, you are when you're in 8th grade or 9th
Right.
grade. Like, that is, you know, it's easy to forget. And I see parents do it all the time. It's like, man, like, your kid is already insecure and you're taking away more confidence by reacting this way. And I got to remind myself too sometimes, because, you know, I want to keep the standard as high as possible, but then you have to understand too, like, part of the learning process is messing it up. It's messing it up and you know, and fighting through that until you get to the other side. So again, just about the feedback that we give, how we talk to players, I think it's a common theme across all sports, all things. And I think that's what separates the great coaches, you know, and that's what keeps people around in this career, because, you know, nothing is given. Just like the players, we have to earn our spot on the sidelines.
Absolutely. And especially, I think a lot of the coaches, if they tend to forget, since their kids are their son or daughter or their players are so good at basketball or soccer, it's easy to forget that you're dealing with a 13-year-old going through life. So I think if you kind of keep that in the back of your mind when you're coaching them hard, you're coaching them in the off season, that you want to be there for them, and you want them to trust you. You want them to trust you, and you want them to listen to every word you say, and knowing what they're going through is part of that process.
And I think, again, this is where like this podcast could really help parents and coaches out. It's like giving you guys some of this back perspective of just to think for a second. Like, I think you guys do that too. I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I always try to think like, okay, like, let's say I'm dealing with a 12-year-old. Okay, like, how was I when I was 12?
Right.
What was I like a bit? Just like for a second, you don't have to go back and relive your whole life. Just go back real quick and just think, okay, like, how was I at 12? Like, how would I have taken that? Or like, how would I talk to myself if I was 12 or 13 or 14 or 18? We all thought different at that age. It's back to the personnel that we're saying. Put yourself in the shoes a little bit, because I think what you said, Coach, there is so important. Like both of you guys with the whole dealing with life, dealing with school, growing into like who you're gonna be, creating that identity. Like you're very insecure and you don't know who you are yet. So like, and again, this is not to give the guys leeway or like the kids leeway to like not be tough and coachable, but also from the adults, we should be the wiser ones. So we should be the ones that have to be more in check of that, because the kid can't. The kid, he's a kid. That's why I think we've said that like 5 times on this podcast. Like, you guys can't expect your 10-year-old to act like an 18-year-old. It's just not psychologically possible. And yeah, there is, right, we all of us know, right, some players that really are like that at 10, 11, and and great for them, like, because they figured the hardest thing to figure out is like how to be like, how to have that mindset of like a real serious athlete. But I mean, we're gonna say that's even in the 1 to 5%. Most kids are just not like that, especially at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, even 14. I think at 14, and Adam Archuleta, the safety for the Redskins from back in our day, like, he said it. He's like, I think around puberty, when kids start to figure themselves out, is when they start really knowing what they really want to do. You might have to wait for puberty for your kid to get a little more serious. Like, you can coach, you can help it, but more than likely that's going to be like the changer into when the kid becomes more serious about what he wants to do.
And he could be a baller and
Right.
not be serious or not mature enough, and that's okay though. That's the thing. It's okay. And a lot of guys do develop a little bit later and they still make it. But yeah, it's like, I think more important than anything is that they love the sport, there's a curiosity and they want to keep pursuing it.
Right, and this big part of it is you don't want to force too much on the kids, and especially like you said, a lot of these good talented kids tend to get a little burnt out towards the end of high school area. So just being able to like take it in stride, push him when it's good for him, or her, but just not being forceful as a parent with a high level athlete.
Don't take away love based on performances like that. That's that is crazy to me, because the kids know when they mess up or they have a bad game. For the parents to pile on,
And
I think you talk about someone else, making them hate the sport. I mean, that I think that's the time where you need to support.
Right. Especially the coach is going to tell them, like you said, they know when they're doing wrong. Sometimes they need a voice in their corner to keep them motivated, to keep them moving on, especially if their coach isn't that guy for them at this time in their life.
You parents, you could be the next play mentality guy, right? You could be that guy, right? You could tell them, hey, look, maybe today you didn't do that good, but next game you got this. You could do this. Like, I know how good you are. Like, I don't think parents understand how valuable the confidence they can instill in their kids. Like, I feel like that's where you guys could really make a big difference, is to be that, like Coach was saying, that guy on the corner, especially when kids are playing bad or they're having tough games, and even professional athletes struggle with confidence. So you really, again, are being unrealistic when you don't think that your 13 or 14-year-old like could literally have like his confidence swiped away in like one bad game.
And how important confidence is.
So parents, the next play mentality, I think it's really smart. You guys could be that guy, like, hey, you got the next one, or the next game mentality.
100%.
Parents, balance that out.
Yep, and
what are some words, guys?
Just to speak on that a little bit, like, a lot of parents that I deal with are very busy or they're not so sports related throughout their life, and I think that's where guys like us come in, where we can help instill that confidence through reps, through little reminders, through, like me, I'm texting some of my clients during the week and good luck tonight in the big game, and that just comes with what we do. So some of the parents that don't have as much time as others or didn't really grow up around a sports culture, I think that's where some trainers like us can come in and help a lot of kids throughout the season, and especially off season, with confidence and it trickles down.
And some of those parents need to run sprints so they see
Right,
how hard it is.
3 minutes.
Yeah,
And
I
then
think that's
they'll
one
think
request.
about,
Yeah, that's one request I get all the time.
yeah,
Kick his butt, and I'm just kind of like, I mean, the thing like some players like if I kick his butt, he might not want to keep doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, or like sometimes like yesterday I was talking to some parents, Coach Sergio, about like the 3-day tournaments in soccer, right? Like when me and you go play for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and like how sore we are. I could just imagine a kid that has to play like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday
2
like that.
games a day.
Like so sometimes parents are like, "Oh no, he should be good. He should or he just looked like he was flat out there, like he didn't have it." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, if you played 2 games, like you as a parent ran 80 minutes Friday, ran 80 minutes Saturday, I promise you by Sunday, you're not really gonna have any much more juice. Like you're gonna go out there and do what you
sometimes at
can,
like 12 in the
but it's
afternoon.
gonna be really hard." And I think sometimes parents are not being aware of like how good some of their kids already are. And yeah, they want them to be better, but this is where the team effort, it's like a team effort. Like coaches got to be involved, parents got to be involved. But yeah, this is part of it, guys. Like everybody that's out there that wants to play sports or get in to become a coach or you want to be a better player, these are all things that you're gonna have to deal with, and the better you can equip yourself to how to handle all this stuff, the better you're gonna be.
Part of the journey.
Part of the
Yeah,
journey.
and guys, I respect you so much because, like Coach E said, I know you guys are out there in the trenches every day. And coaches like those are real coaches to me. Because I know when I'm out there in the field, and of course we post, but we don't post everything, man. And there's so much just value that I know it's captured, it's out there, man. We're impacting a lot of lives and just connecting athletes, getting them to progress in their own lives. So respect the coaches out there that are actually out there doing it, because we know the Instagram coaches that they might have a big following or a big name, but I'm not like, when do these guys work? Because I don't ever see any of their work. You
Uh,
know,
all right.
I know I'm not the most disciplined poster, but I'm trying to get better. At least like just sharing, hey, this is what I'm working on. This actually works. You can see this kid over time. And yeah, I think some coaches are hiding. They need to come out. So respect to you guys for putting in those hours. 'Cause I know you guys do, and it's only because you
So true.
care.
We appreciate you, and
Yeah.
likewise. That's why I love this podcast, being able to bring all this together. Just want to thank everybody who listened to this. Please stay tuned. We're gonna have a lot more episodes. Definitely gonna have Coach Kyle back
Yes.
because definitely great dynamic. I do want to give a quick shout out to my dog Sydney and my dog Zach. They two players that have been working with me and Kyle for like we've known them now for years. Like, I think over like 4 or 5 years. Like I've known Zach 6 years. I met Sydney like only a couple years ago. They actually just got scholarships to be able to play in college. So congratulations to them because like we were saying, it's really hard to go do that. Congratulations, kudos. Takes a lot of work, takes a lot of effort. And other than that, man, I just want to again thank you guys for coming on at this time. We all are busy. We're all coaching. I know all of us got sessions later. I got work later, so thank you guys for taking the time to spend this time with me, and obviously, like hopefully, some of this stuff reaches some people, and I know it will reach the people that it needs to reach. Gems here in the first podcast, I said like people pay for this, guys. So you're getting it here for free. Don't take it lightly. And of course, if you want to train with us, I'm gonna put our handles down like I always do on the podcast. Follow us, DM us. All of us do virtual training. If you even want to maybe train with us and you live in another state, we have the ways to still be able to work with you. So anybody listening to this, feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. Yes, man.
All right, guys. Jim Day, say bye. Just say bye
Great
to
having you,
everybody real
Kyle.
quick, please.
Peace, guys.
Take care, guys, and God bless.
Bye.